Now the real question is, will it blow up? I don't know. Oh God. All right, it turned on. Do we have a signal? Do we? Signal.
This video is brought to you by PC Swaps. PC Swaps is an online marketplace designed just for PC hardware, and it's jam-packed with features, including but not limited to built-in sorting and searching for specific parts, lower selling fees than eBay, direct messaging with potential buyers, and even some built-in buyer and seller protections. Whether you are buying a new graphics card or selling your CPU for an upgrade, PC Swaps should definitely be your next destination. Give it a try by using the link in the description down below, and thanks again to them for sponsoring today's video.
Hey, what is up guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Rose, and today we're going to be doing a really sketchy $250 all Chinese parts PC.
Okay, so let us explain a little bit to what we mean by a $250 all Chinese parts PC build. Our good friend Uncertain Logic on our Discord server, big thanks to you, lives over in China, and he buys PC parts on a website called Taobao. Excuse me if I totally butcher the name. He buys the hardware on there and has it shipped to us directly from China, and recently we got a supply of hardware from him, and we were like, we could actually make a PC build out of this if we bought a few more things, which we'll talk about in a minute. And yeah, sadly, this PC is actually going to work, hopefully.
So if you guys are wondering what this case is, we're also wondering the same thing. This is just called the clear acrylic case. If you look it up on eBay, you can probably find it. It doesn't really have a name, and it's made by a lot of different people, but they're all located in China typically. And we actually got this for like $35 when it came out, and you might be able to still find them for that, but they're like all over the place in pricing. But the one downside is, if you guys look somewhere in the video, I'm sure we'll have it inserted, we just spent like 2 hours putting this case together. It comes completely in pieces. You have to peel tape off and everything. You have to put the fans on. You're gonna put everything on backwards a few times because the instructions are not very good, and yeah.
We thought for a very sketchy build, we should use a very sketchy case. And well, since it was built by us, it's even sketchier. But what we're gonna go ahead and do is talk about each individual part and exactly what it is and how this build is gonna work.
So this CPU is not exactly Chinese, it's actually from Germany or Malaysia. And this is the FX 6300, so we're throwing it back to an FX series build, which we've kind of wanted to do, but this was from China technically, but you know, there's really not anything like super Chinese about it, besides it was probably gotten really cheaply and probably doesn't work. We'll find out soon enough. And then to cool that, we have a CPU cooler that says like PC cooler, yeah, it says PC cooler, and then everything else is in, I guess, Chinese. I'm very uncultured and cannot read Chinese, but I'm gonna start working on it so that I can decipher these parts. But it's a 120mm liquid cooler that was like under $20, which is super scary. There's probably no liquid in it, we'll find out. So this is our Onda A97S. This is an AM3 Plus motherboard, and that's like all we really know about it. Apparently it supports AMD Phenom, and right there it says AM3/AM3 Plus, so it should work. I guess we'll find out, right? So another thing that is really wild about this is the form factor. It's like ATX as far as length goes, but then it's like micro ATX for the actual width, so not really too sure about that. We still need to remember to put a battery in this. So let's just go on to the next part. Here we have 2 RAM for extra ramming. This is 2 4GB sticks at 1600 megahertz of HyperX Fury, which is actually just the Chinese version of it. It just has letters that are in a different language, but other than that, it's basically just rammage.
Now for the graphics card, this is actually the one thing we were excited about with this build. This is a 470D. This was on sale on Taobao, and I've seen some other people do reviews of these cards, and they're actually not that bad. Pairing this with something like an FX 6300, you know, we may actually get some decent gaming results, but yeah, it's a custom cooler design you don't normally see here in the US, so it's gonna be very interesting. Now for storage, we have the Doggo SSD. I mean, is there really much else to say about it? It has a cute little dog face and it's 120 gigabytes. Really freaking sketchy. Maybe we'll find a place to showcase this inside the case because, you know, Doggo SSD. But we're gonna see how this works and see if it's flaming hot garbage or not. And speaking of flaming hot garbage, this is the Hercules power supply. This has 600 watts max, which I don't know if it's rated to run at that.
I don't know if you should ever do that.
I don't know if you should ever do it, but this thing is light as a feather. We actually got this off eBay because we didn't get a power supply sent to us from Uncertain Logic, but this was literally the sketchiest power supply we could find and felt somewhat safe ordering. So I don't recommend this. This is a little bit of a PSA, guys. Do not buy any of this stuff for a build. Just trust me. Like, look at this thing. The logo was 3D printed. It's really not even centered all that well. And if I could demonstrate weight, this thing, it just doesn't.
Drop test.
It just doesn't weigh that much. But yeah, power supply, that's going to power the build. And then lastly, as we mentioned at the beginning, we have this acrylic case that we spent like 2 hours putting together. If this thing does blow up, we'll be able to see everything that's going on inside. So how about we go ahead and start building this thing real quick.
Wait, dude, I can't see the case.
Oh, it's going. All right, guys, we have the thing all put together. Now the real question is, will it blow up? I don't know. You get that? Oh God. All right, it turned on. Do we have a signal? Do we? Signal. Hello. Post. Yeah.
That was in Chinese.
Woo, yeah. All right, so as you can tell, it posted, and well, it works. So let's look at those benchmarks real quick.
So this build is finished and it is looking really nice. We're actually genuinely surprised that for $250 and a bunch of parts that were extremely sketchy, like we actually didn't even record an intro for this video at first. We just recorded us building this case because we were like, there's a good chance that there's not going to be a video on this and we didn't want to waste our time. So here we are though, got a video, we got benchmarks, we got a working and breathing computer right here. It's kind of scary breathing, it's kind of like a person about to die, but it works. But aside from that, the case only took us like 2 hours to build, which is really impressive because this is the only case I've ever had to build. And other than that though, it does look really cool, and if this really tickles your fancy, you can get them on eBay. We'll probably have a link for hopefully one that's active down below.
And in terms of gaming performance, it performs like an FX system. The FX 6300, while be it an older processor, can still play some games. And paired with this RX 470D, which basically is just a 470, it's not much better or worse than a 470, performs very well in games like Fortnite, CSGO, and even in games like Rainbow Six Siege, you really don't have any issues. In games that are more CPU demanding like Far Cry 5, you do start to notice that you are losing some performance because, well, the CPU is not the greatest in the world, but if you do lower your settings, you could do decently with this system. Now, regarding the actual motherboard, there were some weird things about it, like we had to enable something in the BIOS to actually allow it to read the second stick of RAM. We couldn't even install Windows on this thing unless we set it to legacy mode. The BIOS made no sense. The settings just were all over the place. We really just had to dive into there, click some settings, and guess and hope it worked. But overall, in terms of performance, very impressed with it. Can't complain too much, and this was definitely an experience.
So this Dogo SSD we're actually really surprised with because it was like extremely cheap, and it does work. It has a really cute little dog kind of printed on the front, and for the price, you really can't beat a working SSD for that. So the liquid cooler is like extremely sketchy, and we're genuinely surprised that it actually does seem to carry liquid, or at least it's like pumping air through it to cool it, but somehow the CPU is staying somewhat cool, and we're pretty impressed with that, it being as cheap as it was.
And lastly, the power supply. Do we recommend you use this power supply at any other build than this? Probably not. You're much better off buying something that is legitimate. But right now, it's working.
I don't see any fire.
No fire. Actually, by playing some games, I did check our watt reader to see exactly how much wattage this thing was pulling. We're pulling anywhere between 230 and 250 watts under load, which isn't much at all. And this thing is rated at 600 watts, but I wouldn't push it to 600 watts because I wouldn't trust it. But nothing's blown up yet, so Hercules power supply, kind of gets a plus, sort of.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this really sketchy build. We know we did. If you guys don't see another video soon, you know the place burnt down because this computer is a big liability. So I hope you guys enjoy, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Goodbye. Thanks, Uncertain Logic.
Thank you.